Hey guys, just before we start, I'd like to thank our new patrons from the month of March. So thank you, Amber. Thanks, Jules, for upping your pledge. Welcome, John. And as well as some people who dropped some change in the tip jar. So thank you, Lindsay, Meredith, and Carrie. You guys are so supportive of the cult, and I appreciate you guys so much, especially in this weird COVID-19 time zone we're living in. And now on to the episode.
So welcome to Mysterious Circumstances, and yeah, we're gonna do some heists, man, some robberies, some unsolved robberies out of France today. And joining me is actually somebody who I had the pleasure of hanging out with back in, what was it, two Januaries ago?
Was it two already?
Yeah, that's hard to believe. That was over a year ago, huh? Because you were in it for the long haul with me.
Oh yeah, I got smashed. Drank too much whiskey.
Yeah.
Justin was kind enough to let me crash until I sobered up enough to drive home.
Yeah, it was a good time though. It was fun.
We shut down two bars.
Yeah. Yep.
Everybody
the
else.
second one was nice. I like the second one better.
Oh, so much better. So much chiller.
Yeah, it was on that river, and there was maybe, like 6-7 people in there or something, 10 people tops.
That's how I like my bars. Half empty, late at night. Bartender's just like, I'm getting ready for all y'all to leave, so I don't talk to you.
Pretty much, yeah. That's how it was, too. We just sat there and bullshitted forever.
Mm-hmm. We've also already been talking for like 2 hours, guys. We're thoroughly into our beers.
For real. Yeah, definitely. And tell everybody what you're drinking over there.
So I am drinking a beer from work. So if you're in Cincinnati, check out High Grain Brewing. But this is a coffee oatmeal stout, and it is really delicious. I hadn't tried it before. I pretended when people asked me. I sold it very well. I had never tasted it.
Oh, I have no doubt that you did. Yeah, I'm drinking Keystone. Like, I'm not fancy. Drink Keystone Light over here. Getting ready, I had to stock up for the apocalypse. Can't really turn down $15 for a 30-pack. Keep it blue collar. Yeah. But,
yeah, I only had this because I had to pick up a paycheck, and they let us grocery shop in the walk-in freezer or walk-in cooler, and then I was planning on getting beer anyways because I didn't have it.
Works out.
Yeah, when your boss is nice enough to say, here, have a beer. Have a 32-ounce beer.
Here, take a bunch of free alcohol. Just go home and have it. It'll be fine.
Go home. Okay, I don't know when I'll see. Yeah, go home. I don't know when I'll see you next. Here you go, some beer.
Yeah, good times. Yeah, and you're out of Cincinnati. You said you guys need the alcohol because of local sports. Kind of rough.
Our Ohio sports are just depressing. We all drink because of that.
Pretty much, yeah. At least you guys have a baseball team. Indiana doesn't even have one.
Oh, we have two.
Yes, you do. And my Cubbies beat up on your Indians there a few years back. I was very happy about that.
See, that's my team. I don't like football.
7, you cannot deny that Game 7 was the best World Series game you've ever.
It was amazing. I was streaming it, and I found out we lost because there was a lag, and the people across the street were cheering for the Cubs, and they started cheering, and I just was devastated. No!
That was one of the greatest comebacks in World Series history. It was the greatest thing ever.
It was the best World Series because neither team, like if either team won, it would have been good because neither team had won in forever, and they're both good team, and it was very intense, and it's what you want in a World Series. It's not like, oh, so and so is going to win. They always win.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like the Yankees, something.
Yeah. Welcome, collective. I'm here this week with Justin from Mysterious Circumstances. Justin, would you like to tell everybody what your Mysterious Circumstances is about?
Yeah, me. I cover basically anything that you can investigate, but cold cases, true crime. I try to debunk paranormal events, try to get into the occult a little bit, and I do historical figures as well. I don't know, just anything mysterious, pretty much.
Basically, if you love really in-depth multi-series, so how I'll do one episode, Justin will do multi-series on historical figures. If you want to get more in-depth, those are always the ones I loved. You'd be like, okay, I'm going to learn everything about this person from their favorite color to everything they've ever done.
Yeah, I go over times. I'm just really, really weird about that aspect of it, I guess. I'm a weirdo for details, I suppose, when it comes to that fashion of like a lot of historical figures. It's fun to learn the context, just learn about them and who they are and why and everything like that.
Oh yeah, but we're here to talk about heists, specifically really fun heist.
Yeah, a little bit of a, lighten the mood a little bit. I've never done a heist episode or
I haven't
either, so I figured it would be something pretty all that good. Yeah, do you want
to? I guess. We're talking about the Termites robbery, and there will be some French involved, as my listeners know. I suck at French pronunciation. I studied Spanish, and I normally just use French to piss off my former co-host Ashley. So there might be some happening.
Oh yeah, I do all right. I'm actually French, so I will screw some things up more than likely, but for the most part, I have a grip on it. I guess we'll see. I'm sure I'll get plenty of hate mail if I mess some stuff up. So,
so I'll start this. The first heist, because yes, I said first. There are multiple.
Yes,
they're very good at their jobs.
Very good.
They're very good in that we don't have that much information on each heist, but the information we do have is really interesting. So, March 27th, 2010, in Paris, they discovered millions of pounds of, cash, jewelry, and everything had actually been taken from a Paris bank because, get this, they didn't come in through the front door. No, they didn't come in through the back door. They dug a tunnel into the vaults and then proceeded to empty over around 200 private safes. A light tooth. They then carried, this is at Credit Lyonnais branch.
No S. Lyonnais.
Yeah. So this is in the area of Avenue de l'Opéra.
L'Opéra. Avenue de l'Opéra.
I'm just making it sound, I'm trying to make it sound French. That's my problem. They actually began digging from a neighboring cellar. So they're next door to the bank the weekend before the heist. So this was a week-long journey of, I'm assuming spoons, but probably not spoons, to just dig out a tunnel.
I would like to think they used...
Right? So many spoons, though. Assuming with Paris soil and how much stuff is there, they probably found some strange things.
Oh, I bet they did. Yeah, it was like scenes like right out of a movie too, and the police referred to them as the termite. Like she had said, they broke through from a next door cellar, and the bank that they chose was closed at the time for refurbishment.
So smart.
No, they definitely, once we get to the end of this, you guys are going to realize like there had to have been somebody inside somewhere that helped them out. But yeah, one of the detectives said it was meticulously planned. The criminals are ice cool, and the gang, and they had hit other banks in the city. They overpowered a guard and spent a leisurely time breaking open and emptying all the boxes.
That's my favorite thing. Yeah. A leisurely time, just robbing a bank.
They weren't even in a hurry.
Once they left, they proceeded to set fire to the vault, ridding it of forensic evidence. As you know, it's very difficult to get evidence from there. The detective said, quote, "The whole thing was meticulously planned. The criminals were ice cool, determined. They spent at least 7 hours in the vault," end quote. Yeah. So 7 hours.
They were not in a hurry.
They were chilling, sipping champagne, rocking it out.
Hanging out, smoking cigarettes and drinking wine. Yeah.
And then they set fire to everything. So they're like, we could have left a cigarette. You won't know. It's burned up now. Thank you. Bye-bye.
True story. Yeah, in April of 2010, the following month in Paris again was the second robbery. And this raid came at BNP Paribas. Not even sure I didn't look up how to pronounce that one. It was about 5 miles from the Credit Lyonnais, which was targeted the weekend before. And police were convinced that the robberies were both connected. They were the same gang. They used pickaxes, drills, and flamethrowers to break into these banks.
When I break into a bank, I think first thing I need to bring, flamethrower.
is a flame. If you're not using a flamethrower, you're not.
So a spokesman of PNB said, quote, "The gang aborted the robbery and started a fire to destroy evidence. They set off an alarm and alerted the police. They had not managed to open the safety deposit boxes," end quote. And so that means basically they got nothing out of this. But
No, I was just laughing.
You got nothing. You set fire to everything and got nothing.
Yep.
But they had already started tunnel from the service station of the nearby metro. So, swipe your metro card, go in your secret tunnel, rob a bank, get back on the metro. Easy. Well, the previous raid had actually been described as France's crime of the century, and that's why they pinned them together, because of the fires and the tunneling aspects. So they're like, okay, these are the same people.
Yeah, and again, in April of 2010, there's a third robbery, and this is, again, suspected to be the Termite Gang at this point. They attempted to dig their way into a French bank using a pneumatic drill over the course of this weekend. And it was, like I had mentioned, the third attack of a bank within, I don't know, what was about 5-week period.
Yeah.
And the gang dug a tunnel into the bank from a nearby underground station, and they did it in the early morning hours, and they also failed again to seize any cash or value.
So the third tunneling, okay, so because of this tunneling aspect, the police are trying to figure out, okay, where did they learn this from? And the French media actually were like, we remember something from our history. It's the Spaganari affair, which Albert Spaganari had masterminded this huge heist, which we'll talk about at the end, 30 years before in Nice. So there is a history in France of tunneling to steal things. So they're like, oh, clearly they're learning from that. So this third robbery, they also managed to tunnel into a vault of the branch of the French bank Société Générale. I'm going with Spanish. That's where my pronunciation is going.
I was going to say. No, we're fine with that. That's fine.
We're going to go with Spanish pronunciation. They used a bank holiday and spent 2 days and nights inside before getting away. And so it ends up being, and then the article I got this from was in pounds, so 6 million pounds. So they're doing pretty great in this 5 months period. They hit 2 banks in one time, and they also failed to get into the bank's strong room. So they are not getting in, they're getting into the safe, but they're not getting into the room where all the mini safes are, where all people keep their valuables. So they were like, screw this, set fire, and left. So they're smart.
Yeah, and when they did set that fire, it set off the fire alarms, which alerted the police. And then they ended up arriving at the scene at about 4 a.m. And the gang had left the pneumatic drill and a bunch of digging equipment. They basically just, when they set fire, they just took them. And detectives in France, they nicknamed them the termites, because they were digging through the walls of all of these financial institutions. They were, going through sewers, they were going through cellars, and just digging all the way through. And the gang had succeeded in almost completely drilling through the bank wall, which is 50 centimeters thick, when they had eventually set off the...
Oh, this is the first bank that week, and they tried to get through. So there's 2 banks. Mm-hmm. So they got one successfully. The other one, they were almost done. So the second bank, 50 centimeters isn't that far left. So you've got one bank you've already got in. The second bank, you're so close. You set off the alarm. When the police got there, they have one bank, one bank's on fire. This one, they had basically created an explosion underground through a gas pipe, because they hit the gas pipe, which, as most people know, not a great idea.
Probably not.
The spokesman was really happy for the Paris police that they didn't get to the safety deposit boxes, because that's where the first crime, where they got all the money in Credit Lyonnais, they got 200 private safety deposit boxes. And as anybody knows, that's where most people keep their secure valuables. So we really don't know what was in there. So they were thrilled that they didn't get into those, because insured things are in there, but also some probably not uninsured, quote unquote, things.
Yeah, probably not.
So then they passed through the ventilation pipes dug into a neighboring cellar to reach the bank using, like we said, pickaxes and flames.
So another branch of the Case d'Epargne in Paris suburb was robbed in a similar fashion, and that was over a New Year's Eve. And police said that this robbery had striking similarities to one of the robberies that the very first one, to another bank that was undergoing construction work in the suburb of Saint Denis in September, where 117 safe deposit boxes were emptied by the thief. And the BNP Paribas, they issued a statement, and they said that nothing had been stolen and no damage had been caused during the break-in. But a spokesman said, quote, "There was no damage and no theft in the safe deposit box. The attempted theft was a failure." But to be honest with you, I mean, they've gotten enough by this point in time. They're not exactly doing bad.
No, and it seems like a lot of the banks are trying to save face because they're just getting money at this point. Like the past, like these third robberies, like the third series of robberies, they're not getting to the safety deposit boxes. They're just getting cash. So the bank can kind of save face and be like, oh, no damage. Nothing's happened. They failed. And they've still gotten some cash. They just haven't gotten the real valuables. So I really enjoy it. So these are like more tangential connections that have occurred outside of Paris and around the world that they've connected to the termites. So in 2013, there was a wine robbery, and the robbers were known to have good taste, high performance drills, and inside knowledge. And they pissed off all of France's most prestigious restaurant owners. Because why? Instead of coming in through the windows, they burrowed into the cellar in search of these fine wines. And it's now known as the termite method. And that's why they connected it. They're like, oh, these are clearly the termiters.
Yeah, they made off with like several dozen excellent bottles, and each bottle was worth about 1,500 pounds. And they were from the boutique in central Paris, it was ran by a huge major chef in that area. And the gangs usually get into the cellar of a building that is undergoing renovation work, like that's kind of their thing. During that year, I mean, they hit everything from wine to safety deposit boxes, perfume, jewels, fur coats. They basically upsurged everything. Like they really took it to the next level to pretty much steal anything that they could.
Yeah. So the raid on the restaurant owned by Mr. Robuchon freaked out all the fancy wine people. There's a lot of them in Paris. And what happened was the police determined that when the gang drilled a hole in the cellar wall, it actually turned off the alarm. So this time, instead of unlike a bank, they're expecting people to come in the doors. They drilled into there, and it somehow, when they drilled the hole into the wall, it somehow disengaged the alarm where it would not affect them and it wouldn't alert police. And they were able to sneak into the cellar, take the wine without being noticed. As police said, they knew what they were looking for, so they knew what was in the cellar, so they had to have an inside person. And, quote, they didn't stumble upon this by chance, end quote.
Yeah, and then Mr. Robuchon, he would not identify the bottles that had been removed, but said they included rare and esteemed vintages from France's most illustrious domains. He said, quote, "They had to be well informed because they drilled a hole right by the cupboard where the wines were stacked," end quote. And then a police source said, "We are dealing with several very well organized teams that are perfectly aware of the layout of the places they are targeting. They master the technique for drilling a hole in a wall, a floor or a safety box. Perhaps they are former building workers." And honestly, I wouldn't be far off from that too. Like they had to have known something.
Yeah, it's the placement of where they dig is too secure. Like they are certain, and most people, even if you get maps, you don't really know exactly. Like this one, they knew exactly how to do it, where they could take the bottles without setting off the alarm. They disengaged the alarm, so it's crazy. Le Figaro. newspaper determined that this was the return of the termites. So they had been gone since 2010. They come back in 2013, steal wine, all these luxury goods. And really, Paris restaurants were like, checkmate, let's up our underground securities.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like, we got these assholes out here stealing all our booze, man. And it's worth money, though, you know?
Fancy wine is worth money until it turns into vinegar. So you got that sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
So at Laurent, which is a fancy establishment, they had its cellars with 25,000, guys, 25,000. And this time period, if I had 25,000 bottles of wine, I'm going to have a good time. They were protected by a security guard, an alarm, and a wire mesh grill. That's intense. On top of it, Felipe, I'm going to call him Felipe B, because that last name is very intense.
That's very, very intense.
And French. He was the wine waiter, said he would always place bottles on the rack in the cellar, meaning they had to move them one by one. And they basically did it that way, so you couldn't just take a crate of it anymore. You had to, to get the one you need, you had to go dig through the racks. And that is the cleverest. We're going to make you take your time to get the bottles you want. You want this one? You have to now remove 20 bottles of wine to get that one. Good luck.
Yeah, and at one restaurant, they had 6 wine cellars, which contained 60,000 bottles of wine. That's 60,000 bottles of wine, right? So one of these bottles of wine was an 1846 Chateau Lafite Rothschild, and it was that one bottle alone was worth 15,000 pounds. So they're protected. This shit was protected by steel doors, an electronic surveillance system, and a motion detector. But the termite gang can pretty much get through anything at this time. You know, I mean, they didn't end up stealing that shit from what I understand. But dude, they started locking their wine up in steel safes and shit.
My question is, who is buying a $15,000 pound, our 15,000 pound bottle of wine?
If I had $1 million, I'd fucking buy the hell out of it. It's gotta be.
Does it have gold in it? My uncle sells wine. Fancy wine is just fancy wine. It's not better than cheap ass wine. And I've pissed him off when he brought Pope wine to Christmas.
So I tell you what, the big question here is, where would they have originated this technique and knew that it was going to work so well, you know? And that brings us to one person who I don't really think was particularly involved. I don't even think he was.
I think he might have been dead.
I think he might have been dead by that point. But in 1976, this dude named Albert Spaghetti. Yeah, Albert
Spaghetti.
That's what it looks like. Yeah, Albert Spaghetti, a former soldier, he burrowed into a bank in Nice, France, and he opened 371 deposit boxes, and he got away with an estimated 20 million pounds, which is crazy shit.
Yeah, and like I said, we're gonna hit him at the end because he's interesting as well. We're just gonna go over his heist, but this is where they got the idea. Well, it's 2013. You gotta lay low for a bit. Where in the world are we gonna hit next? This is a Carmen Sandiego-esque group. Mm-hmm. Let's go Asia. They went to the Philippines, guys, which in 2018 I would not recommend, but for doing criminal things. So in Imus City, there were 2 robbery suspects killed in a shootout with patrolling law enforcement at a gasoline station in Bangaray, San Juan at dawn on a Wednesday. The superior superintendent police officer basically determined that they were near the site. They noticed its two attendants waving at the police, and they're like, hey, there's been a robbery incident. The police officer said PIB, which I'm guessing is the federal police force, and the city cops then began conducting surveillance operations on the alleged presence of members of the notorious quote-unquote Termite Gang, who were reported to be operating in some commercial buildings in the area. So basically, they're like, these people are plotting some shit right now.
Likely, yeah. Yeah, the 2 cops, or the cops, they started chasing the 2 suspects, and they left on 2 motorcycles, but the suspects, they had handguns. they started firing at the cops who were chasing it. And then the cops ended up, shooting back, and they killed them in the process. And suspects who died, they remained unidentified at the time that this press release came out. And for those of you who do not know, like, this information, it's, scattered about, but it sucks because, like, any updates or anything like that, like, they're not in English. Like, a lot of the really good articles are not in English, and it's like, oh, shit, okay.
That's why it sometimes seems like we're a little bit disjointed, is because we're grabbing as much information that is in English.
Yeah. The police ended up recovering two 38 caliber guns, which they were homemade, improvised guns. They were revolvers with ammunition. They had 3 cartridges of 9mm. They had $1,000 cash, and then their getaway.
And I believe that's $1,000 in Filipino cash. I don't remember what the currency is in the Philippines, but so I'm just going to tell you what I know about the Philippines at this point. It's not a great time. Their current prime minister took over, and he started his war on drugs. We're going to say it's on drugs, but basically, if you were a suspected drug dealer, or suspected drug user, which the drug users often got lumped in with Western tourists, you might end up dead in a little nice canal, the bay. This is the same Filipino president who admitted on live TV that he was part of death squads.
Yeah.
So he's great. I suggest you go research him in your own free time and make up your own opinions, but general knowledge of what's happening in the Philippines right now. So they took the cadavers of the 2 suspects back to the Herald Funeral Homes in Tres Marias City for, proper forensics and dealing with the dad. Meanwhile, the provincial police commander said for that city, they intensified their checkpoint operations. They were really looking at lawless elements in the region because they had a gun ban, and they were monitoring. Really, they just shut down the area. So they're like, we're going to shut this down. We're going to make sure we get these guys. On top of it, they took the confiscated guns to the provincial headquarters to kind of figure out what's going on, because they're also having elections at this time. So it just heightens everything, as we all know. Elections. Making everything worse since we've started elections. And So he also, because they had these guns confiscated, and they were like homemade guns that the gang had, they had 33 village chiefs from the General Trias city voluntarily surrender their respective firearms for safekeeping as well. So, like, that's how heightened the tension is when they're shooting out these suspected termite gang members, that they didn't get to complete their heist. So they were like, deuces, and they headed where?
They headed to Manila. In 2019 is where they pop up again, and a couple place gets robbed. Policemen said the robbers entered a drainage canal from where they bore a hole that broke through the concrete flooring of the cash department of this bank. The investigators learned from the bank management that the bank has no security guard at the time of this happening, and the line of closed circuit TV camera was cut. A security guard was only assigned during the day, while the CCTV was off overnight. So investigators discovered that the suspects had cut the line of the alarm in the CCTV before the robbery. And then, they later ended up recovering the hardware that was used, that they suspect was used by the suspects who did rob them.
These guys, thinking about it, going from Paris, where it's a lot more sophisticated, to the Philippines is actually kind of smart, because you've already honed your skills. And security's a little more lax there, so you can just be like, oh, cool, just peace out.
Yeah, pretty much.
Build your little nest egg. So I know I've been teasing it, but let's talk about Albert Spaganari. Yes. I feel like that was Italian, but let's just go with it. So he actually worked in a photography studio in Nice in 1978. He, at this time, plotted to rob the Societe Generale Bank, and he was like, you know what, I can't do this by myself. So he enlisted a gang in order to dig a 25 feet of tunnel between the vault and the city sewers, which is insane to think about. Just like, yeah, nonchalantly, we're going to dig this 25-foot tunnel. But he heard that the sewers close to the vault.
He heard that the sewers were close to the vault.
Oh, close. I can't read. Yeah. Sorry. So he found out that they were close. So he looked at maps, and I'm assuming, and such. And he was like, you know what? It's easier to do it this way. And that's why he hired the gang. To get information, he then rents a box at the bank vault for himself. And he put a large alarm clock in the vault. So he would set it to ring at night to basically check for any acoustic or seismic detection gear, which is so brilliant. He's just like, you know what, if you're...
It actually is super smart.
Because if you're going to set off an alarm, that kind of would be the way, is the vibrations. And he's like, I got this vault. I got this little safety deposit box, put those in there. And if they call me, I know that they have that alarm.
Yeah, he set that alarm or whatever, and he found out that there's no alarms protecting the vault, whatsoever, because it was considered to be impenetrable. So the door wall was extremely thick, and there was no way to access the other walls, or at least not any obvious way. So Spaghetti, he contacted all these professional gangsters from Marseille or Marseille. Yeah. They didn't even want to participate in the robbery. They're like, rude. Nah, man. They're like, nah, we're not going to do that shit. But they suspect that his accomplices that he used were probably recruited through old OAS friends that he
basically old wartime friends.
Yes.
Good old wartime friends. So they spent their time getting down to the sewers, 2 months digging an 8-meter long, so 26 feet tunnel from the sewer to the vault floor. And how does no one notice a bunch of dudes going down into the sewer?
Yeah, unless they were doing work at the time.
Good costuming never goes amiss.
Exactly. Throw on that road worker vest and you're good to go.
Some high-vis, everyone thinks you're just part of the city.
Exactly.
So Spaghetti was really careful during this dig because they worked long hours continuously drilling. He was like, no coffee, no alcohol, which this is France in the 70s. I'm just saying. And to get at least 10 hours of sleep every shift to avoid danger to the mission. So basically he's like, I don't want any accidents. I want you all to be healthy and well looked after while you're in this sewer.
Yeah, on July 16th, 1976, it was a long weekend because of a holiday, and his gang broke into the actual vault itself. And they opened up 400 safety deposit boxes and stole an estimated 30 to 100 million francs worth of money, securities, and valuables. And it was considered at the time the largest heist in the history of bankruptcy.
So impressive. And that's why, stealing from safety deposits is so key because, one, a lot of people don't cite what's in their safety deposit box. That's your liberty to put whatever you want in there. So he was like, we don't know how much they took because some people have stuff in there they're not telling you about.
Exactly.
They're not, no matter how nicely you ask, they're not telling you. So according to some, Spaghetti would bring his men a meal, included wine and pate, and they sat down in the vault to have a picnic lunch while they're robbing it. Yeah. So French. So French.
Yeah, they spent hours picking through all these safe deposit boxes like they took their time. And before they left, which was on the 20th of July, they left a message on the walls of the vault. And in English, it said, without weapons, hatred, or violence. And then a few months later, police found Spaghetti and elicited pretty much a confession.
It's so crazy. They harmed no one. That's what I'm kind of okay with these because no one's hurt. Yeah. It's just property. The sucky thing is your property's stolen. But they do not kill or maim or harm anyone. They're just like, cool, we're going to take this and bounce. Yep. During the court hearing, Spaghetti distracted the judge, leaped out of a window, not shitting you, onto a waiting motorcycle.
Yep.
This is a movie. It has actually been made. He was never caught again, even though he wrote a book about the heist, along with he wrote 2 other books and gave a broadcast interview. However, they never got the cash. None of the spoils were ever caught. So even of the gang, they never got anybody else really. Yeah. And he died in 1989. So there's this huge history of tunneling heists in France, and I kind of love it.
I'm kind of eager to know where the hell he put all of it. Whether he sold it off, he had to. That's the thing, nothing was ever found. So it's where did all of it go? What happened? But I mean, dude, during a court hearing, the guy jumps out a window and shit. And there's a motorcycle down there waiting, and he just rides off totally free. I don't know why, but that's kind of badass.
It's so badass. Apparently, he went to Argentina and got some plastic surgery so he could come back to France to visit his mom and his wife. It's the most French thing I've ever heard of.
Yeah. Hey, man, gotta come back and visit the fam, you know?
So, yeah, I think Spaganari kind of gave a good example of, how to commit these tunnel heists, and this new gang just perfected it to French kiss into the air, perfection.
They perfected the shit out of it. And they had to have gotten, I don't think they got the knowledge from him directly, but just his, the way that he did it. I think the way he did it was so publicized, and the fact that he wrote, 3 books? Yeah. You know what I mean? Somebody was like, this is fucking foolproof, this too.
And there was a movie. So it's like an Ocean's 11. You're like, do you want to tell us how to do it? Because we got that. But I mean, he was only caught because there was a hint, or they interrogated someone and they gave him up. But what if the new gang theory, I just came up with this, the new gang is the second generation of his buddies?
Could be, honestly, their kids or some shit, because the time frame would work.
Because he died in 89, this happened in 70, so they'd be in their 40s, or even their grandkids. They all just perfected it, just chill. Well, think about it. They got a couple million francs. They could chill for a generation.
They really
good. Because, I mean, this is before they were on the euro. So, they just chill and keep sliding some cash into their bank like a paycheck.
Pretty fucking much, yeah.
Huh. I mean, the fact that we went from Paris, when we started this, I knew of the Paris, and then all of a sudden they're like, and they're in the Philippines? And you're like...
Same methods used in everything, except it's because if they stole that much money, let's say they sold it on the black market, let's say you take $1 million to the Philippines or something like that, you automatically have an exchange rate to where you're living pretty damn good. You know what I mean?
You can buy your own goddamn island, just chilling on there.
You probably
living your best life.
I'm mad about it. Yeah, they didn't hurt anybody.
That's, we get mad about a lot of these crimes, but it seems like they made sure, alarm goes off, something goes wrong, they get out, nobody's hurt. You can't get mad at that kind of crime.
Yeah, and the one, that he left, the one guy, they left that note on the damn vault walls, without weapons, hatred, or violence. It's well played, man. Well played.
That's what makes me think it's a family thing, because
could very well be.
It feels like most criminals on that kind of level, you don't want to have violence, but you also don't want to have witness. And
exactly.
This one seems very much we got our way in, we got our way out, we good. I just want to know, how awful is it digging those tunnels?
Dude, for them it's probably a lot more awful than, sitting in a bank vault for a couple days, nitpicking through every single safety deposit box, making sure you take...
Yeah, because I mean...
stuck tunneling through all that shit.
What is it? The 70s one, Spaganari's, they don't say how long they spent in the vault, but the other ones, they spent 7 to 8 hours.
Oh, yeah.
That seems a lot quicker to go through all the vaults, so you have to have some sort of key thing to get all those open. Because they got
on the one they were in, because it was a holiday, they suspect they broke in on the 16th and they left on the 20th. So I mean, hard telling how long they were even in there. They could have been in there a couple damn days, just hanging out, literally nitpicking through every single safe.
Hit all this is if I was going to do this, I would hit all the ones that were kind of easy first, get all the easy stuff. So if you start getting that out, and some of the safety deposit boxes, if they were difficult, then it gives you time. You at least got some cash out if you have to leave. you're good. The harder ones, you can spend your time. So think about it. Probably day one, get all the ones if they're kind of easy, kind of old, kind of broken. Take your time. Take a day. Work on the harder ones.
Mhm.
Have a snack. Take a nap.
Yeah, and obviously they had, at one point in time, they had a picnic, in the vault. So, I mean, they brought food with them and shit.
Yeah, I think that's according to Spaganari, who said he brought them wine and pate, which, I mean, you're French. Of course you're bringing wine and pate. Like,
yeah, I mean,
your whole picnic. Where do you think all the money went?
I don't know, man. I really don't know. I want to say that I think they would aim for more cash than anything, because like black market value of jewelry or anything like that they would steal would be of less value.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, anything cash related, they wouldn't hang on to jewels or anything like that. They would sell it, underground, and it's at a fraction of the cost that it's actually worth. But
yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, nothing was ever found, so there might be a huge bundle of cash somewhere.
Yeah, that's the hard thing, is like, how do you get rid of, that's what they say, like, cash is easier to get rid of, especially at that time, because you had to have the numbers, the sequential numbers for it. And if you didn't, you could just put it in. And if you did it slowly enough, like it's a paycheck or something, you're good. Yeah. I wonder if they just kept the jewels, like you just put them in another safety deposit box and just chill them there, like chill them for a little bit and then sell them in a different country.
Probably could, yeah.
Man, I'm giving people
smart about it.
I'm giving people too many ideas.
I know, right?
I have not stolen anything. Preface.
And like, let's keep in mind that like the Termite Gang, that wasn't very long ago.
2010? No, that couldn't have been me. I was still in high school. I was almost done, but I was still in high school. It was not me. I was in Bumblefuck, Ohio.
Oh, you love Ohio. You know you do.
I'm hit or miss on the state, honestly.
Me too.
That's because you're neighbors to it.
Yeah, your guys' road construction sucks too.
Guys, we're having fun in this coronavirus time. We're living our best life, learning about heists and drinking beer. Do you want to tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, sure. You got the Facebook, of course. Just look up Mysterious Circumstances, and Instagram is @mysterious_podcast. Twitter is @podcastmc, and then like listening wise, I stream a podcast. Yeah, not too hard to find. Yeah. So I guess
cheers to quarantine life.
For real. I'm not there yet, but probably will be by next weekend, I'm sure. All right, well, I'll talk to you later.
Hey, we're Renee
and Adrian,
and we are
the Outlandish Historians. We're sisters,
nerds,
and lovers of all things history.
Except bell bottoms. Keep that in the past.
Come hang out with us on the Dear World of History podcast, where we'll frolic through time
as we chat and geek out over the good, the bad, and the downright ugly history of the world.
We promise you don't have to be a licensed historian to travel through time with us.
Maritime disasters?
Check.
Historical serial killers?
Check.
Glamorous and petty royals?
Check and check. You can find us almost anywhere you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify.
Follow us on Twitter @Dear Historians and Instagram @Outlandish Historians.
So chug that drink me bottle and come on down the rabbit hole. It's going to be a wild ride.
Cult of Domesticity. We're available on all podcatchers. Remember to rate, review, subscribe to help spread the word, or just force other people to listen to it. Our Facebook and Twitter are @Domestic Podcast, and our Instagram is @The Cult of Domesticity. We also have podcast merch at Threadless. As well, if you want to support us financially or show some appreciation, we have a PayPal tip jar and a Patreon, which has some pretty great perks. Any topic suggestions, feel free to email us at domesticpodcast@gmail.com. Remember to stay domestic and cult-free.